On January 18, 1945, in the jagged ridgelands overlooking Casteldeano, Italy, elements of the 3rd Battalion, 3rd Ranger Infantry Company, Derby's Rangers, pushed into the Apennine Mountains under a veil of freezing fog. Temperatures hovered around 20 degrees F, snow drifts reached the knees, and visibility rarely extended beyond 100 yards. But hidden somewhere along that ridge, somewhere above those icy slopes, was a single German sniper. A phantom from the 104th Jäger Division, armed with a 7.92 Karabiner 98K fitted with ZF-39 optics, who began eliminating Rangers one by one. By noon, the men crouched behind shattered rocks and twisted tree trunks knew one undeniable truth. Unless someone silenced that sniper, the advance would collapse. And that someone would be Staff Sergeant Mark Lewis. What happened next would become legendary. The Rangers entering Casteldeano that winter were battle-tested. They had fought through Anzio, scaled cliffs, conducted night raids, and endured some of the most brutal attrition in the Italian campaign. Among them was Staff Sergeant Mark "Mac" Lewis, squad leader in 1st Platoon, a quiet, deliberate man whose calm under fire made him respected, even revered. Lewis had joined the Rangers in 1943, trained at Camp Forest, and quickly proved himself an expert marksman. Not a sniper by MOS, but a natural shooter, someone who understood wind, terrain, and timing like a sixth sense. His men trusted him with their lives. Strategically, the situation in January 1945 was precarious. The Allied advance toward Bologna had stalled against the German Gothic line. The Apennines were a fortress, an endless series of ridges, cliffs, and valleys that the Wehrmacht had converted into killing grounds. The 3rd Ranger Battalion had been tasked with clearing enemy forward observers in small pockets of resistance around Casteldeano to prepare for a broader 5th Army offensive. It seemed like a routine operation until the sniper arrived. The German marksman appeared shortly after dawn, picking off the lead fire team with chilling precision. Private Raymond Ortiz, shot through the chest at 9:07 hours, fell without ever seeing the enemy. Minutes later, Corporal Hogan, attempting to reach Ortiz, was struck through the helmet. Then a burst of incoming artillery forced the Rangers to scatter. When the smoke cleared, the sniper resumed firing, one shot at a time, always from a different angle, always out of sight. By 1100 hours, the Rangers were pinned. Captain Samuel Hargrove, commanding 3rd Battalion's A Company, knew they couldn't call artillery on the position. The slopes were too close, too steep, and Allied units were shifting nearby. They needed a precision solution. That's when he looked at SSG Lewis. And Lewis, calm as always, simply nodded. The mission was simple on paper. Locate and neutralize a single sniper across a ridge system nearly a mile wide, in blinding fog under fire with no support. But the reality was far more terrifying. By 1200 hours, the sniper had fired at least 8 confirmed shots. The Rangers estimated his distance at anywhere from 200 to 500 yards, though fog made Ranger finding nearly impossible. Tracks in the snow vanished quickly in the wind. The terrain, steep gullies, rock outcroppings, patches of forest, created endless hiding places. Lewis studied the ridge through his M1903A4 Springfield, its 2.5x Weaver scope partially fogged by the icy air. He wiped it clean with a gloved thumb, then scanned left to right, methodical, relentless. Behind him, the wounded moaned softly. Medic PFC Thomas Ballinger worked frantically, bandages freezing as soon as he opened them. "Think you can find him?" Captain Hargrove asked. Lewis didn't answer at first. He continued scanning. Then, "Yes, sir, but I'll have to do it alone." "Why?" "Because the moment he hears more than one set of movement, he'll shift. And if he shifts, we lose more men." Hargrove didn't like it, but he understood. 12:15 hours, Lewis began crawling forward. The terrain was a frozen labyrinth. Each movement had to be silent. Snow compressed under elbow and knee made faint crunches, each one echoing in the still, icy air. Lewis paused often, sometimes for 2 or 3 minutes at a time, listening. The sniper fired again at 12:27 hours. The crack of the K-98K echoed across the rocks, followed by a short scream. "Damn it," whispered Lewis. He angled toward the sound. At 1300 hours, Lewis had advanced 120 yards, belly against the snow, rifle cradled in his arms. A cold wind cut across the ridge, carrying flecks of ice. His fingers burned despite the gloves. The smell of pine and cordite hung in the air. Lewis froze. There, just 300 yards to the northeast, snow had shifted unnaturally near a cluster of boulders, barely noticeable, a slight slide pattern, a position chain. The sniper was mobile, experienced, dangerous. Most snipers held one nest, this one didn't. This one was hunting. Lewis exhaled softly. He's using leapfrog positions. It was a technique German Jäger-trained marksmen were known for: fire from one spot, relocate instantly, fire again from a new angle. It prevented triangulation. It kept enemies guessing. It was devastatingly effective. Lewis resumed crawling. By 13:45 hours, the fog thickened, visibility dropping to 40 yards in places. Lewis reached the base of a narrow defile, a natural chute between two ridges. If the sniper crossed it, he'd leave prints. Lewis waited. Nothing. Then suddenly, at 13:59 hours, another shot. Closer. Too close. The bullet smacked into a rock just 10 feet to Lewis's right, showering him with shards of stone and ice. He flinched, but did not move otherwise. "Damn, he saw my movement," Lewis muttered. But that shot revealed something crucial. The sniper was now above him, slightly to the southeast, roughly 220 yards away. Lewis slid behind a fallen tree trunk. Minutes passed. At 14:07 hours, Lewis spotted it. A flicker of light on the ridge, a reflection from a scope, however brief. "That's you," he whispered. "And you just made a mistake." Pause. Lewis steadied his rifle, heart pounding against his ribs, breath fogging lightly through his mask. He adjusted for elevation, 3 clicks up, and wind, 2 clicks right. But then silence. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. No movement, no muzzle flash, no sound. Was the sniper watching him? Was he repositioning again? Or was he waiting for Lewis to fire first? The tension built steadily. The fog swirled thick as smoke. Lewis's gloves stiffened from ice. His pulse hammered in his ears. At 14:40 hours, a single bird fluttered from the brush above, startled by something. A movement. Lewis saw it just barely, a thin shadow shifting behind a rock, too small for a full body, but perfect for a rifle barrel. He aimed. Before he could fire, a round zipped past his head, so close he felt the pressure wave brush his cheek. The sniper had spotted him. Lewis rolled left, snow exploding around him as another round struck inches from his previous position. The German was firing fast now, confident, aggressive. Lewis crawled backward, deeper into cover. "Okay," he whispered breathlessly. "Okay, you want to play aggressive. I can work with aggressive." But this aggression meant one thing. The sniper believed he had the advantage. And for the first time that day, Lewis felt fear grip his chest. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. The Rangers couldn't advance. The wounded were piling up. Nightfall was approaching, and temperatures would drop further, risking hypothermia for anyone still pinned on the ridge. Worse, the sniper was now closing in on Lewis's position. Lewis could hear faint crunches of snow, deliberate, cautious, growing closer. The German was stalking him. "Damn," Lewis whispered, "he's coming to finish me." Lewis had little cover, limited mobility, and a rifle designed for long-range precision, not close-quarters defense. At 15:08 hours, a shot struck the log next to his head, splintering wood into his face. Lewis rolled downslope, sliding 15 yards through brush, tearing his uniform but gaining distance. Another shot followed, then another. The German was firing rapidly, too rapidly for a sniper, but he knew Lewis was exposed. Lewis slammed behind a rock outcropping, gasping. He checked his rifle. The scope had iced over again. He scraped it with a thumbnail, heart thundering. The German was now within 150 yards. Lewis could tell by the sound, the crispness of the shots, the echo delay. "Come on, Mark, think. The fog thickened suddenly, curling through the pines in ghostly tendrils. Visibility dropped to 20 yards. The world shrank into a cocoon of white and silence. Lewis realized with a jolt. He could no longer see the sniper. But the sniper could definitely still see him. A shadow passed across the farm, quick, deliberate. Then another. The German was flanking him. Lewis pressed himself flat, fingers trembling from cold and adrenaline. He dug into his pouch, retrieving his last Mk2 fragmentation grenade. He listened. Nothing. Then a faint metallic click. A rifle bolt cycling. Close, too close. Lewis pulled the pin. "Please let the fog hold," he whispered. He lobbed the grenade toward the sound. A boom echoed through the trees, snow blasting upward in a white plume. Silence. Then another shot. The sniper was unharmed. And now he knew exactly where Lewis was. Pause. Lewis scrambled deeper behind cover, lungs burning. He was running out of options. The German pressed harder, firing rounds that skipped across the rocks, forcing Lewis into a confined pocket of stone and ice. He was pinned, alone, cut off, growing colder by the second. This was the crisis point, where most men would break. Lewis didn't. But he was close. So close he whispered a quiet apology to his squad. "I'm trying, boys, I'm trying." A round slammed into the rock above him. Another chipped stone into his collar. The next one would find him. And at 15:37 hours, Lewis understood a painful truth. He wasn't going to outshoot the sniper. He would have to outsmart him. Lewis's breathing steadied, his mind cleared, a plan formed. The sniper favored aggression, closing distance, applying pressure, dominating angles. That aggressiveness could be used against him. Lewis removed his helmet. He placed it carefully on a stick, stuck upright behind a rock, angled just enough to resemble a crouched soldier. Then he took a long, slow breath. He slid silently down the slope to the right, entering a narrow depression, a natural ditch obscured by thick brush. His boots sank into icy mud. Branches scraped silently across his sleeves. He moved 20 yards, then 30, then 40. Finally, he settled behind a twisted juniper tree, low, hidden, offering clear visibility toward the helmet decoy. Now he waited. Minutes passed. 1, 2, 5. Then, at 15:49 hours, the sniper fired. The helmet jerked as the round punched clean through. Lewis didn't move. He waited. The sniper fired again, a second round for confirmation. Then Lewis saw it, a figure emerging from the fog, creeping cautiously from behind a boulder. The German marksman, dressed in white winter camouflage, moved with the practiced precision of a veteran. His rifle remained raised, scanning. He was only 95 yards away. Lewis slowly, carefully raised his Springfield. The German hesitated, looked toward the helmet again, took another step. 90 yards. Lewis exhaled. 85 yards. The sniper turned slightly, offering a partial silhouette. 80 yards. Lewis squeezed the trigger. The Springfield barked. The German staggered backward, hit, but did not fall. Lewis cycled the bolt instantly. The sniper dropped to a knee, raising his rifle. Lewis fired again. This round found the chest. The German collapsed, rifle tumbling from his grip, disappearing into the snow. Lewis waited. 10 seconds. 20. He lowered his rifle and advanced cautiously. When he reached the body, he confirmed the kill. The sniper, likely a Jeffrader, mid-20s, still clutched a K98K with a ZF-39 scope. Beside him lay spare ammunition, rations, and a blood-stained notebook filled with firing data. Lewis closed the man's eyes, then retrieved the rifle as proof. He keyed his radio. Alpha Actual, this is Lewis. Sniper neutralized. For a moment, silence. Then cheers. Real, exhausted, heartfelt cheers echoed across the ridge. SSG Mark Lewis had done it. Alone. In the fog. Against impossible odds. Rangers pushed forward immediately, securing the ridge by 1700 hours. With the sniper gone, resistance collapsed quickly. Medics evacuated the wounded, and the battalion held the position through the night. Casualties from the sniper's actions totaled 3 killed and 4 wounded. Tragic losses, but far fewer than they would have been had the threat persisted. Lewis returned to camp quietly. He submitted the captured rifle and sniper's notebook. After debriefing, he simply said, "I just wanted my men to make it home." His commanding officer recommended him for the Silver Star, citing extraordinary gallantry and complete disregard for personal safety. Witness statements described his lone crawl through sniper-infested terrain as one of the most courageous individual acts performed by any ranger during the Italian campaign. The award was approved on March 12, 1945. In the years following the war, Lewis rarely spoke of that day. He worked as a carpenter, raised a family, and lived a quiet life, never seeking recognition. But among the few surviving Rangers of his platoon, the story was repeated with reverence. The sniper at Casteldiano had nearly halted an entire company. Lewis had stopped him alone. And though no medals or citations can fully capture the terror, the desperation, or the cold resolve of that day, one thing remains undeniable. His actions saved lives, and they exemplified the Ranger creed. Rangers lead the way.